Acapulco, Mexico. This is Anarchast.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. I have a great returning guest, but it's been a long time since he's last been on. It was actually in February 2012, so 5 years ago. Foster Gamble, I had him and his wife on way back then, talking about the Thrive movie and the Thrive movement. And of course, that's still very well known and still being propagated. People are still sharing that excellent movie everywhere. And Foster has been very busy over the last 5 years. Actually so busy that I've invited him to every Anarchapulco we've had, but he just couldn't make it. But this year in 2017, he's actually going to be in Mexico around the time of Anarchapulco. So he will be speaking at Anarchapulco this year, which I'm super thrilled about. So Foster, it's great to see you again.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. It's great to be on. I've been following your Anarchast and enviously watching the progress of Anarchapulco, and I'm thrilled to be able to be on with you and also to get to actually come to the event this year.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it's so funny. I just looked back at our last interview, which was in 2012, and so embarrassing on my side. It was actually episode 20. So we're actually at like episode 350 or something right now. So it was like 300 something episodes ago. And I got a little better in the meantime. I was so not good at doing this sort of thing back then. But you guys were great to have on back then. So why don't you give us a little bit of an update? I know you're doing so many things. What have you been up to lately?
Well, it's been really satisfying, Jeff, to see what happened with the film, because our goal was never just to make a film that some people would see and then it was, oh, did you see that film or not? The intention for the Thrive, the movie, was to be a trailer for the website. And the website was really designed to be a toolkit for what we hoped would naturally turn into a movement. And fortunately, that's what happened. As we went around to 50 cities around the world with the movie, we kept running into people who had started spontaneous Thrive-inspired solutions groups. But as we talked to them, we realized that they were all reinventing the same wheels, whether they were working on banking schemes or GMOs or chemtrails or new energy or whatever. They were working independently and not benefiting from kind of sharing best practices. So we created a hub on the website where they could find each other. Individuals could find a group, groups could find each other, and you could search by issue or by zip code or by country. And now I'm happy to say there's over 1,000 of those groups in close to 100 countries, and we don't have to micromanage anything. The only two agreements they need to make to be part of it is, number one, that if they're working in multiple sectors, that they use our same sector titles so that we can coordinate and collaborate worldwide. And the other is simply that their solutions can't ever violate the non-aggression principle. So that weeds out a lot of them, but also lets people know what we're up to and leverages their activities into solutions that are actually aligned with real justice and therefore they're much more workable. So that's been one really satisfying thing, is these solutions groups. The film continues to be accurate and relevant. So it's still being seen by over 1 million people a month, and it's over 70 million what we call documented views, where that means we count one view per stream or per DVD. And of course, people are showing it to groups, passing it around, doing community screenings and so forth. So we're over 70 million, but it's probably closer to 100 million views, and that's just on the film itself, not including our websites and I mean the website and our blogs and our podcasts and that type of thing. So we've been thrilled at the response. And one other piece I should share with you is that, and this was kind of a surprise, but a really pleasant one, was we've been contacted by over 1,000 inventors from all over the world who saw what we put out in Thrive about the breakthroughs in cancer treatments and new energy and agricultural developments and that type of thing, but also saw our message about the potential suppression of these things if they're really disruptive, if they're really going to undermine either big organizations' profits or the global agenda for depopulation and mass control. So a lot of people who had either already been suppressed or afraid that they might be contacted us. So I've been vetting those projects for the last 3.5 years, and it's been so encouraging to see what's out there. And now we've launched this thing called Thrive Connect, where we're we've become kind of a cosmic dating service where we're putting investors and philanthropists together with the best innovators and helping them to get the security that they need to stay safe, but also the legal help and the business help and the funding to really get these things out. So that's just getting started, but it's going really well.
Wow, you've been keeping busy. That's interesting that you have groups all over 1,000 groups across the world. We actually have a similar thing with the Dollar Vigilante. We have something called the Dollar Vigilante groups, and we have dozens of, well, actually hundreds, I don't even know how many, around the world. Luke Radowski of We Are Change also has sort of We Are Change chapters all over the place. So everyone's kind of doing that sort of a thing. So that's great that you're building on that and the people are all working together to try to get these things out there. But what's sort of like your main sort of goal at the moment with these sort of things? What do you want to see happen or occur from this progression and from people getting together and doing things?
Well, there's two main things that I'm up to personally. One is getting these breakthrough solutions out. And the interesting part of that is that, our solutions groups are taking on between 200 and 300 different issues, and which could be very diluting, like what happened to Occupy. If there's not core principles, the whole thing just falls apart or gets taken over by political organizations and so forth. But what we have found in looking at these hundreds of solutions is the key that unlocks the door to let all these solutions out is liberty. Because if people are free to express their creativity and do voluntary exchange, create their businesses and so forth, we would actually have these cures for cancer, these agricultural solutions, these free energy devices, all the alternative currencies and alternative banking and so forth. All of that would already be out there replacing this authoritarian control structure. So it's been really encouraging to me to see that, yes, every single one of the problems has a commonality, which is it's a breakdown in the wholeness of natural systems. And every solution has a commonality, which is the non-aggression principle, which is individual sovereignty. And so I've been so profoundly impacted by that I'm in the middle of writing a book on the kind of history, the principles, and application of liberty right now. So I'm super excited about that. I think it'll come out probably, at least I'll finish it sometime in 2017. I'm kind of writing it between the gaps of a lot of travel and working with the inventors and so forth. But those are the two main focuses for me. With the inventions, the main things we're working on right now is I'm working especially on the energy projects, and Kimberly's working especially on the health projects. And we just launched our first one not too far from you at a medically licensed retreat center in Costa Rica. We launched it in November, and it's a new patented technology that this brilliant doctor inventor has been working on for 20 years that activates your own dormant healing cells in your own blood. And literally activate with certain esoteric laser frequencies. You take a little bit of blood, you shine this laser on it for a few minutes, and it wakes up literally billions of cells that are the equivalent of a day old. And then he puts them back in your body, and then depending on whether you've got a problem with an organ or a joint or you've got a sports injury, you want to work on basic rejuvenation or just mental clarity or something, he'll take that same laser and aim it, kind of wave it over certain parts of your body, and the dormant cells that have been activated are now tuned into that frequency. So they'll go through your body and they will seek out that energy vortex. And they'll, for instance, if you need help with your heart or your pancreas or something like that, those cells will find the vortex, they'll attach there to each other and to the organ, and they'll just start healing and continue to for about 3 months. So we're seeing phenomenal results, and we're starting with this in Costa Rica. As you know, it's a lot easier to bring out a lot of these things in other countries that have more liberal policies toward actually getting cures out rather than stopping them to promote pharmaceutical profits and the depopulation agenda.
Yeah, absolutely. So many of them are actually here in Mexico. A lot of natural cancer treatment sort of places. We've actually had on Anarchast before. We've had Rick Simpson with cannabis oil. Many actual cancer cures out there. And I just had Josh Mason on talking about detox, which that's usually most people's problem is they're just toxic. Right? They have a lot of toxins. Toxified. and so things like that. But yeah, is this place in Costa Rica? Is that something that you can tell us more about if people are interested?
Yeah, it's called the Arrhythmia Life Advancement Center. It was founded by Gerard Powell and Brandy Alexandra, and it's just brilliant. They spent a year getting all of their licenses, clearing with the health ministry, the government, all this stuff. So it's licensed for various medical treatments, as well as it's the first legal place for plant medicine in the world. So they have very highly skilled shaman doing ayahuasca and San Pedro ceremonies in a very safe and comfortable environment. You know, you're not worried about getting lost in the bush or getting stung by a scorpion. You know, you've got doctors and psychologists on call. You're in comfortable rooms off the ground with mattresses and a bathroom, and so it's really a fantastic experience. It's kind of a combination of a health center, a spiritual center, and a kind of a spiritual exploration opportunity.
That's great. I see so much potential for things like that, sort of these healing centers that use all sorts of different things, technologies, plus things like plant technologies like ayahuasca, as you mentioned. Have you done any of those plants yourself?
Yes. I've experienced the ayahuasca there a few times with just wonderful benefits. The first time that I did it, I had experimented with psychedelics occasionally throughout my life, particularly back in the 70s. But I've always approached them with tremendous respect and caution. So I would journey about it once every 5 years or something like that. And then I had heard about ayahuasca because I used to work back in the early 70s for the Journal of Transpersonal Psychology when it was just getting started. We started getting reports from Brazil about this plant that they had actually been using for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And so a bunch of psychologists went down there to check it out, and they did a lot of psychological testing on these different tribes, found them to be the most psychologically healthy groups of people that they had ever come across. So they started bringing ayahuasca to the States, and of course the AMA came in and declared it a Schedule I and, forbid it as quickly as they could because people were getting results, in a journey or two that they hadn't been getting in 5 or 10 years of therapy, and that, undermines certain profit groups. But also, as you well know, those would-be controllers don't want us becoming more independent and more conscious. So they've shut down, LSD, they shut down marijuana, and then they shut down plant medicine. That's one of the reasons why we're so happy that they've created a thoroughly safe, medically licensed place where people can go and do this without feeling like a criminal and get the benefits that people in Central and South America have been getting for centuries.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you know, but at Anarchapulco, we're going to do an ayahuasca ceremony. It'll happen after the conference, I believe, on March 2nd. They're run by the best shaman in Mexico, in incredible facilities as well. So we're doing similar sort of things. And we did it last year, and a lot of people loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, the first time that I did it, I started into a series of visions, the first of which was very geometric. And, I've been obsessed with spatial geometry, cosmic geometry, since I was a teenager anyway. But all of a sudden, I was just, flying through these incredibly gorgeous geometric spaces. And then, basically, I was introduced into a form of the Akashic Records, where I was watching this kind of screen where all these film strips were going by, and each little frame of it held a different packet of information. But I remember saying, wow, that's an incredible hallucination. But I thought, I said inside my mind, I said, you're going too fast. I can't see what it is, at which point it slowed down. And I thought, oh, okay, I'm part of this. And then I started zooming into them and exploring different ones. And then I thought, well, okay, if I'm part of this, I said, could you go full screen? At which point it's what filled my entire field. And I said, could you go 3D? So it wraps around me. And I spent probably the next hour and a half just exploring everything from free energy theories, free energy workings, to exploring, the ancestry of my own consciousness and mysteries of the plant. It's just a phenomenal opportunity. It's not something that I recommend for everyone. I don't think everybody's ready for it. It's something that you need to be very careful about. Learn about it before you go for it. Make sure that you are ready. But it's really one of nature's great offerings to us.
Yeah, totally. I agree with you. And yeah, people should, it's not something to do just for fun. You should definitely be serious about it. And usually people will kind of have it call them. They won't look into it themselves. They'll have, that's what happened with me, myself, a couple of years ago. I just had this sort of instinct or calling that I needed to do it. And it really helped me as well. And I went on to do a number of other things, including Iboga and DMT and magic mushrooms and all kinds of things, and all of them have helped me in different ways. So really important stuff that, as you mentioned, the U.S. government wants to make sure that no one in the U.S. gets access to, because it really helps people.
By the way, congratulations on kicking the nicotine.
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, that
was the Iboga helpful in that, or did you just do it on your own? I know you read a book that was helpful.
Yeah, the Iboga I did mostly because I wanted to get healthy and healing in general, and I was drinking too much again at the time, and so my focus was to stop drinking again and to just sort of get better, start healing, and that really helped. The Iboga was amazing. It just totally, I was amazing after that.
Wow.
But the guy actually asked me before I did, and actually the Iboga guys will be at Anarchapulco. They're one of our gold sponsors, by the way. It's the called Iboga Quest. They'll be there. And Barry, who actually is a past Anarchast guest, he runs the place, and he asked me if I wanted to quit smoking when was that one of my intentions with the Iboga, and I told him no, because back then I was just like, no, I'm enjoying it too much and all that sort of stuff. But then I kept going and I kept doing, and I was doing a major detox similar to what my last Anarchast guest, Josh Mason, was talking about. And just during it, I just felt so amazing that I just got this sort of, like I said with the ayahuasca, I got this sort of like instinct or calling, like I should just quit smoking. And it led me to do a couple of YouTube videos, and I found out about this book by, I think his name's Alan Carr, called The Easy Way to Quit Smoking. And I looked it up, and I couldn't believe it when I saw it. It said, when you read this book, when you're done, you'll never smoke again. I was like, I don't know about that. And I actually got about halfway through, and I just quit smoking. It was that good. It really explains the psychological aspects of it. Once you understand that, you kind of go, well, yeah, it's pointless. Well, I'm actually making everything worse by continuing to do this. Right. And all the things that I think it's helping with is actually making it worse. So once you kind of understand that at a base level, it kind of makes it really easy. So yeah, I quit that, and now I've been really good, actually.
You look super healthy.
Yeah, I've never felt better, really. And I was up at like 6 o'clock this morning. I went and did a run and walk with the dogs, and I just finished my yoga, meditation, all kinds of stuff this morning. And so I'm feeling great. So
by the way, one of the reasons that I'm able to come to Anarchapulco this year is that I'm working with several inventors not too far from where you are, who are the best inventors I've ever come across. And two of them are in Mexico because they were healing all sorts of diseases so dramatically effectively that there were, first of all, they shut them down, then there was slander, and then attempts on their life. So they each had to flee the States and go to a place where they could actually practice medicine. I mean, they're both MDs. They're absolutely brilliant doctors who are, cured a number of our friends of final stage cancer and so forth. So I'll be down there working with some of them right nearby. So it's a very exciting area where you are right now.
Wow, that's great. Good to hear. One area that's interested me that I've always known that you've been interested in is the area of free energy. I see these YouTube videos every now and then. Some guy's got some free energy machine, and everyone goes, oh, look, it's amazing, it works. But I don't really know what to trust, or, I've never seen anything with my own eyes, and I'm definitely not any sort of technical person who would even understand how it even works or anything like that. But you're really into this stuff. So is there real, true free energy technology out there that's being suppressed?
Yes. and that's why the best of them, most of them have had their labs raided. They've been literally given national security gag orders where they're not allowed to work on it. They're not allowed to talk about it. Usually their equipment is stolen and their lives threatened. And so they wouldn't bother doing that for a bunch of hoaxers. And I would say of the technologies I've vetted, about 5% of them are hoaxes. About probably 85% of them either aren't what they think they are or don't have it yet. And between 5 and 10% have actually got it. Now, out of those, some of them have died suspiciously. Some of them have disappeared. Some of them have been shut down and threatened such that they literally are not working on energy anymore. They went into health or water or environment, something, to apply their expertise but stay alive. And then there are a couple of the best ones who got shut down, but they contacted me after Thrive came out and wondered if I wanted to work together, and I asked them what they were doing. I said, last time I heard that you'd gotten shut down. They said, yeah, we're working on it again. The government told us we could continue our development as long as we did it only for the military. And I said, well, I'm glad you're still alive, but I don't want to work with the military. They're going to weaponize this stuff. They're going to keep it out of the hands of the public. And then there's a few others that have succeeded in staying under the radar, and so I'm working hard to get them the funding they needed, the business advice, and to keep them safe. What's going to happen is probably within the next year or two, these technologies are going to be coming out literally all over the world, and it's going to be like whack-a-mole with too many moles. They're not going to be able to stop it. We're taking about 7 different strategies for different inventors, depending on what their situation is. But one of the ones I'm encouraging is if a philanthropist has enough money that they can offer, $50 million or something like that, just give it to the inventor who actually has it working, who's willing to put their instructions in escrow. The other guy puts the $50 million in escrow, and on a day you publicize the whole thing on the internet, and the guy gets his money. The plans go on the internet, or maybe he gets half of his money, and the other half when other people have successfully recreated it in order to prove that it's the real deal. I think it's still very hard for anyone to come out and actually market and sell an over-Unity device because there's a period of isolation there where they're just probably going to get shut down. But there's lots of strategies, and a bunch of them will work simultaneously.
It's quite incredible, isn't it, that people are out there, they're finding amazing health things to cure pretty much anything, and they're getting killed or run out of business. There's people out there finding free energy devices, technology, they're being killed or run out of business. What what is it going to take for people to wake up to see what an evil sort of system is behind the U.S. government and behind these big governments? And another question is there something even bigger than just whoever is controlling the government? Is this like something almost spiritual level evil that is, this is incredibly evil what they're doing. It almost seems like it's beyond even human level evil. What's your take on what is this thing that is controlling all this?
Well, of course, some people say that it's, off-planet interdimensional beings, reptilians, archons, the usual cast of bad guys. And that could be. It could very well be. David Icke, I've been following him for 15 years, and he's been so outrageous in his claims, but so accurate. And once, a little time passes, and it turns out he was right about the banking schemes, and he was right about the Illuminati, and he could well be right about the reptilians. I've talked to people in cultures all over the world who have that same story, who never heard of David Icke. So it could be. To me, it doesn't matter a whole lot until it's proven. There's a lot of psychopaths out there who are operating from the reptilian brain, and I think that's what's critical. If you're operating without remorse, with an obsession to destroy and to control and to create suffering, those are the most dangerous people on the planet. And as you know as well as anyone, the worst thing we could possibly do in terms of our system of civilization is create a monopoly on force and a monopoly on money, and then turn those systems over to those very psychopaths. And that's the situation that we're in now. As we laid out the global domination agenda to try to create a one world government and so forth and thrive, and we were getting shockingly close. And I'm happy to say, much to the surprise of a lot of my liberal friends, I think that Trump's election is actually pulling us back from the brink of that. I think he's the first non-globalist president in 100 years, maybe since Andrew Jackson. And I don't know anyone else who could have gotten into that position, much less had the guts to take on the Federal Reserve, take on the TPP, take on Big Pharma, take on the media, and that's all in his first 2 weeks. So there's a bunch of stuff that he's doing that I don't like, but he's doing more positive than any other politician I've ever seen. And the division for me, I wrote a blog about this, and I've got another one coming out in a few days, where I'm trying to help people who are literally suffering in despair at this political polarity to understand, first of all, just the basic non-aggression principle, the whole liberty perspective. But when I do my lists of pros and cons with Trump, what divides it down the middle is the non-aggression principle. I think Trump is a free market guy. I think he wants to succeed, and fortunately he wants America and humanity to succeed, but he doesn't really understand the non-aggression principle yet. So he thinks he can take over women's bodies with punishment for abortion or that type of thing. He thinks he can torture. He thinks he can create tariffs. He thinks he can protect Palestine against the invasion that created the Zionist state there. Supporting coal and nuclear when free energy is available, encouraging us to go back in and take Iraq's oil. To me, that's all a violation of the non-aggression principle. On the other side of it, the things I love about him is that he is auditing the Fed, that he canceled the TPP. He's got a executive order in draft right now to cancel mandatory vaccinations, investigate the CDC. He's against he's exposing the flu shots. He's exposing the scam of climate change that's being used to create the money and the legislation for one world government. I think he's kept us out of war with China and Russia and Syria. He's broken the monopoly of Big Pharma on government contracts, and I think the lowering of corporate taxes is the beginning of the rebuilding of prosperity in the U.S. So I'm actually very encouraged by what's going on, even though I am right in there with you that I detest the notion of an authoritarian state, and it's just that we need to transition out of it. And we laid out a transition strategy in Thrive, three-stage strategy that it now looks like it's actually happening. It wasn't a coercive strategy, but I think Trump is really, stage one was to bring as much reform to the current systems while shrinking government to just an entity for protection. The second one would be more of a kind of a Ron Paul phase of only protection, no foreign wars of aggression, sound currency, and all that type of stuff. And then I think by the time that we're into that sort of a condition, a critical mass is going to realize, hey, we don't need any of that stuff. Every single thing that we want government to do for us is done better by independent competing entities who have personal accountability and liability. So let's just get rid of all the cancer of government and go for it. And the last point I'll make is, in response to your earlier question of what it's going to take, it's already happening big time. With people like you and James Corbett and Steph Molyneux and Larkin Rose and Jeffrey Tucker and Adam Kokesh, and what we're doing is right on and on. This is actually what's surging around the world. And I know I've been following pretty closely what's going on in Brazil right now, where they're having these demonstrations where these thousands of young people are holding these signs saying, less Marx, more Mises. And I'm in contact right now with a couple of very successful business folks from Venezuela, who had to run, had all their stuff stolen, and they're wanting to consult with me and others like me on how to fix Venezuela. And I said, listen, the only way to do it is through the liberty principles. And so, so it's beginning to arise in Venezuela as well, because young people are caught right now between getting sucked into traditional politics or getting sucked into socialism because they don't know what it is. They don't know the vast destruction that it leads to. So what they're doing in Brazil is a lot of young people are using social media in very cool ways to make it cool to actually be in favor of full freedom rather than socialism slipping into communism. So it's already happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I see it all the time. In fact, even this morning, I got a message on Facebook from Nelson Chartrand, who's an anarcho-capitalist, one of about 10 in Cuba. And I interviewed him recently on Anarchast, and he told me they just finished their first sort of anarcho-capitalist, sort of Austrian economics conference, and they weren't shut down or anything by the government. I think enough people are watching them now and know who they are that the government really can't come in and just put them all in jail anymore. Yeah. So we're starting to see, we're seeing stuff happening all over the place. And I know a lot of these sort of like hippie types have been talking about this, sort of like this 2012, this Mayan thing, sort of this, what do they call it, the age of Aquarius, all this sort of stuff where we're supposed to be at this time now where there's this conscious awakening supposed to happen. And you mentioned earlier that you think a lot of these things are all going to start coming out over the next few years. You just almost can't stop them now, which is great. Yeah. Do you think there's something more to it, like this sort of like conscious awakening sort of a thing is actually real?
Well, I did a talk last year at the first annual conference called Architects of the New Paradigm. And I would say it's probably 75 to 80% liberal in their politics. But, this was hundreds of people in Marin County. And so I really challenged them. I said, I really get this awakening to our oneness, to the interconnection of all of nature. And to me, that's an absolutely critical part of the new paradigm. But I challenge them to look and see it's not enough. It's not working. Look where we are. And I suggested in my talk and in my workshop that the main thing that was missing was a moral compass. The core of a universal morality, and suggested that the non-aggression principle was what we've all been looking for. And it's the one thing that Kimberly and I have found that everybody agrees to. It's not easy to get any group of people to agree to anything, much less to have all of humanity to agree to one thing. Now, they agree to it for themselves. I've talked to a number of these psychopathic controllers who, of course they don't want to be violated, but they actually do think that they should have the right to violate others because they're richer or they're whiter or they think they're more conscious or, smarter or more powerful or, whatever their excuse is. So I think really and I'm about to talk at the second annual Architects of the New Paradigm, and I'm just going to keep going with that theme. And I encourage them to invite at least one other Liberty person this year, and they invited Mary Ruart. So, we're going to be tag teaming in this particular one. But people are catching on. People were coming up to me afterwards and going, I was just in the process of starting a school, and I'm going to change the whole thing. I'm just in the process of starting a bank, and now I got to rethink how I'm doing this thing. So a lot more people are waking up than you're going to hear about in the mainstream news, but also then are admitting it to their friends, particularly with the just nastiness, the vitriol that's around this Trump polarity. So many people come up to me and say, listen, I can't say this to my friends yet, but you're really onto something with this freedom thing, and it seems like Trump is at least heading a little bit in that direction.
That's good. It's great to see or hear that people are waking up. I see it all the time too. So there is something going on. We're at the cusp of something here, and of course it's going to be so great to have you come down to Anarchapulco. We've got so many great people who are involved in doing all these sort of things all over the place, including G. Edward Griffin, who's got his own sort of freedom network as well. He's trying to do some massive conference this year, 2017, in the U.S. all about freedom. I think it's called Freedom Force. course. There's, Vit Jedlica started up Liberland, a totally voluntarist sort of country in Europe. We have Rick Felfing of the Pirate Party. They're actually sort of all voluntarists, and they're getting into actual governments in all over Europe, including Iceland, where they're almost a government now. So, yeah, there's so much going on. This is really an amazing time. So,
yeah, this is what's emerging, and it's what has to emerge, because it's the only movement that I see that's fully aligned with the life force. It doesn't involve having to coerce anyone, and it doesn't involve having to leap into any irrational beliefs. So it's actually where the force wants to go. So I have no doubt that the only thing that's going to stop this is, nuclear holocaust, and I don't even think that's going to happen.
Yeah, hopefully not. We'll see what happens.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But it's looking fairly decent at the moment. Hopefully we got a few good years ahead and lots of great stuff happening. So it'll be great to see you down here. Let's leave a little bit for you to actually talk about at Anarchapulco, of course. And why don't you just finish up with anything you want to mention and let people know where they can follow you. You mentioned you have a blog and things like that.
Yeah, you can follow our movement and Kimberly and me at thrivemovement.com. And we've got a Thrive YouTube channel. You can see Thrive, What on Earth Will It Take, for free at our website or on YouTube. And what I'm excited about in coming to Anarchapulco is, first of all, coming to something like Anarchapulco or Freedom Fest or Libertopia. It's like a vacation for my soul, because instead of having to slog through these awkward conversations just to talk about true freedom, it's actually the starting place, and you can leap off from there. So what I want to share with the other freedom-minded folks is I wanted to share with them the encouragement that we're getting out of all the solutions that we're seeing that are already real, they're already happening in every single sector, and they're all based on freedom. And secondly, I want to address what I'm learning by the seat of my pants about how to talk to people about freedom so that they actually want to listen. Because we're all in that challenge. We don't talk about it much, but we're all in that challenge, and we can learn from each other to start with common values, as Larkin Rose talks about, and to ask questions instead of just try to cram something down someone's throat so that you start out on the same page. I'm finding it really helpful to lay out almost like a kid's story or something like that, once upon a time, and to lay out the history of the predator class after agriculture came in, to show how a few people not only got into authority, through force, and then claiming royalty, and then when royalty was exposed, they go to the priesthood. When the priesthood is exposed, they go to government. And then when the dictatorships get exposed, they go to democracy, and that's where we are. Most people still believe in the coercion of mob rule, but once they understand that history, it's kind of easier for them to get, no, wait a minute, maybe people shouldn't be ruling it. And of course, then the question comes up for everyone. Yeah, but if we don't have someone governing us, it's just going to all dissolve into anarchy and chaos, because we've been trained to think that anarchy has to be chaos. So that's what I'm writing my book about. Is no, it not only can work, it's the only thing that has worked and will work. And here's how it will work in every sector.
That's great. Looking forward to hearing or seeing your book, and looking forward to seeing you here in just a couple of weeks in Acapulco, Mexico. So I'd like to thank Foster Gamble for coming on. It's been a real pleasure. It's been too long, Foster, and looking forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks in Acapulco. So if you like this video, please like, subscribe, share down below. A lot of interesting information from Foster.
Thank you, Jeff. You've been one of my heroes in this movement. I'm looking forward to being with you and the rest of them down there. See you soon.
Thank you very much. So that's it for Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. Peace, love, and anarchy.
How was the conference this year?
Absolutely fantastic.
It's an amazing experience.
The conference is great. It's the best thing I've ever been to, probably in my life, honestly.
It's a blast. It's really fun. There's so many things to do.
Just the spirit, just the energy, amazing moments, amazing people.
It's really, really fun.
It's better than you could expect.
I think it's the best conference I've ever been to.